Boom, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hockey Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank you all for being here wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. I think I said Hawkeye like hockey. Didn't mean to do that, but we're going to power through. It's been a little while since I've done a recording. I am proud to say that I have done a post-game video for 90% of Iowa men's basketball games. That was a goal of mine this year. In the past, I would say I still did most games, especially in the Big Ten, but I would primarily do big wins, tough losses, especially if Iowa was on an uptick and they lost a game they shouldn't have lost. But this year, I made it a priority to do as many games as possible, and I believe I hit 90% of the games. And quite frankly, this has been a tough year to do it because, to tell you the truth, there's not a ton of interest in Iowa men's basketball. The interest level in Iowa men's basketball has been waning for the past 2 years. Not only can you see that from articles that are written, fan attendance, but I can also see that by the interest in the videos. When Iowa basketball is doing well, there is consistent interest on a pretty high level. You know, not that the videos are, do bad or anything like that, but it's just, I can tell that the fans are disconnected. And I have been able to tell that for about 2 years, that the general feeling from the fans towards Iowa men's basketball is, oh, same old, same old. Oh, that's, per usual, that this is Iowa basketball. Their offense is decent, but they are terrible defensively. They can't rebound. They can't win on, just the same old, same old. And, I've said many times, Fran McCaffery could probably weather the storm if he was a bit more agreeable towards the fan base. Fran, that has never been Fran's strong suit. And I'm not saying he needs to be some like milquetoast, kiss-a to the fans or anything like that. But I think there's a nice middle ground where you, as the head men's coach, you do your best to engage with the community around you and increase interest and excitement, not only for home games, but for your NIL money, which is a big deal. But Fran McCaffery has generally taken on the approach of just kind of saying in press conferences, this is the way it is. It needs to be better. I wish we had more money, and just kind of going about it that way. Now, of course, we don't know what he does behind the scenes, but from all reports, he is certainly not the best. So the two stories that I want to talk about today, I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I want to talk about Iowa football hiring former Wake Forest offensive coordinator for actually a long time, Warren Ruggeriero, I believe it is. I believe that's how you say it. And kind of what that means. That's the main one I want to discuss. Yeah, Warren Ruggiero. It's probably Ruggiero or Ruggiero. My guess is Ruggiero. We'll find out soon enough, huh? And the second story that I want to discuss is Fran McCaffery saying that he has no interest in leaving and has full interest in returning. He fully intends on returning to Iowa men's basketball next year. Now, I have to. I'm not going to say everything that I want to say when it comes to Iowa men's basketball, because I've been telling you guys that I'm going to drop a video at the end of the year detailing whether I think he needs to go or not, and we're really close. But suffice it to say, I'm going to have to say some things that I'm going to also repeat in that video, and it just is what it is. By the way, guys, hit that subscribe button. We continue to approach 2,000 subscribers. I appreciate your guys' support for the channel. It's my honor to do this as a hobby and engage with you guys. Without further ado, let's get into this. So let's start with the Warren Ruggeriero hiring. This is a great hire. I immediately, upon seeing it, I was like, did this guy do something bad? Like, was he wrapped in scandal at Wake Forest? No, he just wasn't picked up by their new head coach, who came from, I believe, Washington State. He just wasn't picked up. But this guy has been leading the charge of offensive imagination in the college ranks for a long time. And when it comes to Iowa football, what was the number one thing that we did not see? We saw some improvement, but not as much as we would have hoped, especially when you compare it to the run game. Well, I just said it. It was the pass game. Iowa still struggled. Now, part of that is, of course, the lack of quarterback play. Okay. Iowa did not have a consistent number one option at the quarterback position. I still stick to my original belief before the season that Iowa should have given a legitimate look at the other quarterbacks on the roster outside of Cade McNamara, especially when you see where Cade McNamara has landed after leaving Iowa. There's not a ton of excitement when it comes to his skill set. And obviously, people started to question his leadership with some of his late season decisions, especially the senior day stuff. But I said when the season started that Iowa, I thought that they should go with the Northwestern transfer, Brendan Sullivan. And I still stand by that. I think Iowa would have been just as good in the short term. And in some cases, you could have argued better. I think that there's a good chance that they defeat Iowa State. But they definitely would have been better long-term, giving Brendan more reps and more practice within the offense early in the season rather than inserting him late, even though, yes, he had practice within practice, but you cannot simulate real game experience. And Iowa would have benefited from that in the long term. Now, nonetheless, you can make the case that the passing offense struggled because Iowa did not have a quarterback. But I think that that's a tough thing to say when considering, in my estimation, Iowa would have been better off for that season. And where we're at now, as far as Brendan Sullivan goes, not that he would have been the clear-cut number one or anything like that, but Brendan Sullivan would have been further along in his development had Tim Lester had the courage to insert him as the number one right off the bat. And so what I'm saying is, ultimately, that still is, even if it's true that Iowa's quarterback situation was not the best, it still falls on Tim Lester's shoulders. Now, the main thing when it comes to this hiring that I love is that it is an example and proof that Kirk Ferentz is relinquishing control of the offense to Tim Lester and feels comfortable giving that control over to Tim Lester. This is a hire that shows that Iowa is trying to be better offensively, and they are willing to get the right people in place to make that happen. Now, whether this is just like a for show hire or whether it ends up being, in the grand scheme of things, that big of an addition, who knows? But on the surface, right here, right now, this guy obviously has, if you look at his coaching experience, this guy obviously has an offensive mind, especially with the quarterback play and the passing game, that can add to the offensive room. And then on top of that, when it comes to recruiting, the number one thing towards recruiting more talented skill position guys is getting coaches in the room that the players feel like, you know what, that guy knows his ish. That guy knows his stuff. I want to play for that coach. A coach with that mind, I want to play for that coach. And we're already seeing it with Tim Lester. When it comes to, his pickups on the recruiting trail, even just the theoretical, the ones that we haven't seen come to fruition yet. You look at the 2026 recruiting class, Iowa has already landed probably the highest recruited quarterback, pure quarterback. Okay, not football player, but pure quarterback, because you could maybe count James Razor in that position. But a lot of schools were recruiting him as an athlete rather than as a quarterback. Cash Herrera is the most recruited and highest rated quarterback that Iowa has landed in quite a while. And especially considering that Iowa went into California and got him, says a lot. And then on top of that, Iowa is at the top of the list for 4-star and has an official visit set for 4-star, even though they already have a quarterback, Pennsylvania native Peyton Falzone. So this is proof that if you get certain guys into the building, it will aid in some of those aspects, especially the skilled positions. And I think that when it comes to Warren, that all of those things fit that criteria. And again, ultimately, I'm just happy that Iowa is getting a guy like this into their program, because as Iowa fans, we need to start thinking what is next after Kirk Ferentz. Obviously, you have all the coaches that are on the Iowa coaching staff that would be considered. Probably not Liddell Betts, okay? Probably not John Budemeyer yet. I would say that the on the Iowa coaching staff, the guys that are legitimate contenders would be guys like Tim Lester, who's been a head coach, been an offensive coordinator, highly respected in the football industry. Obviously, LeVar Woods is known as one of the best special teams coaches. He's shown that he can coach the tight end position. He's shown that, I think he even coached the Iowa's linebacker group for a little while. I could be wrong about that, but he definitely coached tight ends. But as of now, he's one of the best special teams coaches in the entire country. Widely respected. Players love playing for him. I don't think Phil Parker is a legitimate option just because he's too old. But if he displayed interest, Iowa would definitely consider him. He would be at the top of the list. And then, of course, Seth Wallace. Seth Wallace would 100,000% be an option. I do think and I don't want to turn this video too much into this, but Tim Polasek, who was once at Iowa, I do think would be an option. George Barnett, it would not be an option because he does not have a ton of coordinating experience. He's still fairly young and new, kind of similar to Liddell Betts. But I do think Tim Polasek would be an option since seeing what he's done after leaving Iowa. But again, I said way back when that he may not have enjoyed his time at Iowa completely, especially with all the allegations that happened. So who knows if he would feel comfortable returning. But the point is that getting a guy with offensive coordinator position experience at the Power 4 level. Yes, granted it was Wake Forest, but it's still the Power 4 level, not all the same, nonetheless. To don the black and gold will only aid Iowa in their coaching search and consideration when the time comes. And again, like I said, who knows how long this guy will end up staying at Iowa. Guys that are former offensive coordinators commonly take analyst roles because it is much easier for them to pick up another, head coaching job or coordinator job when they're an analyst. So I wouldn't expect this guy to be at Iowa for a super long time. But if Iowa can have him for 2 years, I think that would be a positive. They'll definitely have him for a year if he doesn't get hired out from under Iowa. So just to wrap this up, let's read this. This is from Hawkeye Wire. I thought my phone was right there. Before being replaced by former South Alabama offensive coordinator Rob Ezel as the Wake Forest OC a few months ago, Ruggiero had spent the past 11 seasons with the Demon Deacons, where he orchestrated prolific offenses that rivaled the success rates of many premier college football programs. Proven national success during Demon Deacons' tenure. Particularly in the 2021 campaign, Ruggiero had generated impressive offensive outputs while OC for the Demon Deacons, where he helped guide the team to the nation's number 4 scoring offense that season. Through the play of standout quarterback Sam Hartman, Wake Forest scored a program best 574 points and averaged a school record 41 points per game during that season. This resulted in Wake Forest finishing 11-3 and winning the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl over Rutgers by a score of 38-10. While the 2021 Broyles Award for Best Assistant Coach in college football eventually went to Michigan's Josh Gaddis, Ruggiero was a finalist for his work with Hartman and the Wake Forest offense during the 2021 season. Number 2, brings innovative ideas for the slow mesh to pair with new quarterback Mark Gronowski. Part of what made Ruggiero's success with Hartman in the 2021 season so lethal was the use of the slow mesh RPO scheme. This scheme calls for the quarterback to slow down his decision to pass or hand off the football to the running back as he surveys what the defense is doing. It creates great confusion for defenses on whether or not the RPO snap is a run or pass play. If Ruggiero can install that type of offensive wrinkle for an already talented Mark Gronowski, the Hawkeyes could be a significant problem for defenses to cover in the fall. With the long offseason still ahead, Iowa hopes that Ruggiero can sprinkle in some of his offensive ideas to Tim Lester's playbook and have it run effectively come the Hawkeyes season opener at Kinnick Stadium against Albany on August 3rd or 30th. So there you guys have it. I think it's a good hire, and especially for the whole Mark Gronowski thing. You know, as far as the media goes and their preseason power rankings, most of these publications have Iowa right at number 7, where they feel good about the direction of Iowa's offense. They feel good about Tim Lester. They even feel good about Mark Gronowski. But they're not quite willing to fully commit because they know what they've seen from Iowa in years past. But all of them say that if Mark Gronowski hits, Iowa could be a playoff contender. So, and this is going to add to that. This guy has quarterback knowledge. He can help in developing some of Iowa's younger quarterback options. So this, to me, is a slam dunk all the way around. And no, he won't be the running backs coach. The running back position, honestly, and I read this from, and I agree, from Hawk Central is probably a bit beneath him based on his coaching resume. And I agree. Sometimes when it comes to the job market, it's better to take a position that is more mobile and maybe different rather than taking a job that would be directly less than just for the sake of having a job or whatever. And what I'm saying is the running back position would be a step down from being offensive coordinator. Okay. And so that's why a lot of these coaches do take analyst positions, because it allows them to stay employed, but it's different and it's mobile, but it allows them to continue to utilize their mind and be a part of a program and improve, but it's not under a full-blown, positional coach delegation. So, and this holds true not only for coaching, but it holds true in the job market for anything and everything, okay? Sometimes it is best to remain patient in order to find truly the best position possible, preferably a better position from the one that you had prior, than to just take a step down just for the sake of it. All right, guys, we're at 22 minutes. Next, just to wrap this up, I'm going to try and have this done under 30 minutes. My thoughts on, what is even his name anymore? Fran McCaffery saying that he is not going to step down. It's easy, guys. It's straightforward. I'm not surprised by this. You shouldn't be surprised by this. Fran McCaffery wouldn't tell us, even if he did have inklings of leaving. And I've told you guys for a while now, it doesn't even, I did multiple videos on this. When there were the same old stories from the same old publications coming out, the rumors from the message boards saying that Fran McCaffery was not interested in returning to Iowa and was thinking of going elsewhere, I told you guys that was shenanigans, that was ridiculous. And I am even more vindicated, okay? He has no reason to go anywhere else. Unless he is just so done with Iowa, it just logically doesn't make sense. And even if that was the case, he would not admit it. It's not, guys, it's not professional to do that. He is not going to say that aloud. I mean, this is just PR 101. He's not going to say this aloud, especially when he has one of the best classes he's recruited in a long time. Beth Gates would be furious. You have to follow the plan. There's protocol. He wouldn't say it even if it was the case. But again, the main reason I would be stunned if he left is because of the recruiting class that he is bringing in. Okay? This guy, all of his kids are out of high school. Well, the last one is going to be out. He's going to be going to Butler next year, where Patrick McCaffery is at. Okay? His life is established in the state of Iowa. And then, and I actually agree with this, Tom Izzo, because Iowa is going to be playing Michigan State next at the time of recording this, and at the time of Fran McCaffery saying this, Tom Izzo said that it's not well, number one, he said Fran McCaffery is one of the good ones, which that's a good compliment from Tom Izzo, who is one of the great coaches. But he said he'd be surprised if Tom Izzo, or excuse me, if Fran McCaffery left on a low note like this. And I agree. I don't think he would leave on a low like this. Especially, again, and some people are higher on the talent level that Iowa has than others, and I understand that. But I think overall, it's safe to assume that Iowa will probably have the most talent that they've had, assuming everybody comes back next year, in the past 3 years. Okay, that will be the most talented team that they've had in the past 3 years. Okay, and who knows who they can land in the transfer portal. But yes, things do need to change. They do. But for all those reasons, I'm not surprised by this. I don't think Fran McCaffery is going anywhere. And, for those of you who think that he's going to be fired, your apathy is kind of working against you because, and believe me, I understand. You guys know I'm as honest about this as any Hawkeye content creator, okay? Probably the most. But your apathy is working against you because you're so disengaged with Iowa basketball. You're also so disengaged that you don't have it within you to be vocal about them needing to fire him and really make Beth Gates make a decision. Beth Gates feels totally comfortable one way or the other right now. There's no pressure. I know there was a thing that said that his seat was hot. His seat is only hot not because of the fan base pressure, but because of just like logically he has two seasons of not making the NCAA tournament. That's it. But it's not like there's like this extreme pressure from the fan base and the powers that be to get rid of him. Not yet. Now, if he does have, assuming he returns, which again is an assumption. Assuming he returns, he cannot have another season like this next year. Okay, he would definitely be gone. But the apathy is working against. It just is. So it is what it is. So I wasn't surprised to hear this. And just to wrap this up, I am kind of honestly hoping, and I've said this before, especially when it came to Iowa football in different regards. I am kind of hoping that Iowa loses their last two games and that they don't make the Big Ten tournament, because the only way for Iowa to get like substantial changes, especially similar to Iowa football in some regards, is to hit rock bottom. And a lot of times that's the case for many different aspects of life. You have to hit rock bottom or close to it to just be thwarted into making some of the changes necessary. And I'm hopeful. Well, maybe that's strong. Logically speaking, I would think that Fran McCaffery, if he has a losing season this year, will at least be a little bit more open. Not completely, not for sure, but just maybe a little bit more open to the idea of needing to change. And top down, the culture, how he goes about practice, how the guys he recruits, which I think he already has changed, in order to change what we see out there on the court. So I hate to say it, I kind of am hoping that Iowa loses their final two. So, but anyways, just to wrap this up, guys, I'm not surprised. We'll see what happens here towards the end of the season. Iowa definitely is not going to make the NCAA tournament. Stay tuned for the video that I'm going to do on Fran McCaffery, whether he needs to stay or go. Hit that like, comment. Let me know what you guys think. And, of course, the subscribe button. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.